There's a guy in Ohio who sold his 2024 Mercedes S-Class 6 months after buying it, paid 90 grand, took a 40% hit reselling it just to buy a 1987 Mercedes 560 SL with a cracked dashboard and no airbags. When people asked why, he said the new car felt like nothing. That word keeps showing up when you talk to people who make this switch. Nothing. Not bad, not broken, just nothing. Here's the number that should stop you cold. The average new luxury car today has over 100 million lines of software code running through it. A modern fighter jet runs on about 25 million. You are driving something more computationally complex than an F-35 to go pick up groceries. And somehow it feels less alive than a 40-year-old machine with a carburetor and a choke knob. That gap between complexity and feeling is exactly where this whole psychology lives. The first type of person you'll find in this world is what mechanics quietly call the control seeker. This is the person who grew up fixing things, or watched a father or grandfather do it, and associates competence with understanding how something works from the inside out. Give this person a new luxury SUV, and something strange happens. They open the hood, and there's a plastic cover over the engine, with nothing underneath it that looks like anything they recognize. No visible belts, no simple wiring, just a sealed black box wrapped in warning labels. For a person wired to understand their world through their hands, this isn't convenience, it's a quiet insult. Old luxury cars hand this person the opposite experience. A 1970s Jaguar or a 1960s Cadillac is basically a puzzle you can hold in your mind completely. Every system connects to another system in a way a patient person can trace with a flashlight and a Saturday afternoon. When something breaks, they don't feel dread, they feel curious. That curiosity is addictive in a way modern cars can't replicate, because modern cars are built specifically to prevent you from ever going inside them. The dealership wants that job.
The control seeker wants it back, and old luxury is the only place they can get it. But here's where it gets more interesting, because underneath that mechanical obsession is something almost nobody admits out loud. It's not really about the engine. It's about being needed. A machine that requires you, that will actually fail without your attention, gives a person a role. Modern cars don't need you. They need a service center and a subscription. There's a specific kind of loneliness in owning something that runs itself perfectly and asks nothing of you.
And old cars accidentally solve that loneliness by demanding a relationship instead of a transaction. Now flip to a completely different personality. The person psychologists who study consumer behavior would call the authenticity chaser. This person isn't necessarily mechanical at all. They might not know what a torque converter does. What they care about is whether something is real, in a world that increasingly feels manufactured to please an algorithm instead of a human being.
Think about what a modern luxury car actually is on the inside. A 12-inch touchscreen, ambient lighting that shifts through 64 colors, a voice assistant, seats that massage you during your commute. It is, functionally, a very expensive iPad with wheels attached, and people are starting to feel that. There's a strange fatigue setting in around screens in general, because everything in a person's day already lives behind glass. The phone, the laptop, the smart fridge, the doorbell. Getting into a new luxury car and being handed another glowing rectangle doesn't feel like luxury anymore. It feels like more of the same thing they were trying to escape. An old luxury car has texture instead of screens. Real chrome that oxidizes and shows its age instead of pretending to be new forever. Leather that cracks and smells like leather instead of a vinyl substitute engineered in a lab. Gauges with needles that physically move instead of numbers that just appear. To the authenticity chaser, this isn't nostalgia, it's relief. It's the automotive version of someone getting sick of processed food and suddenly craving a tomato that actually tastes like a tomato. And this ties into something bigger happening across an entire generation right now. People in their 30s and 40s who grew up watching everything become digital are starting to place enormous value on anything analog and irreversible. A scratch on an old car's paint tells a story. A scratch on a new car's paint just triggers an insurance claim. One of those things feels like a life being lived. The other feels like a spreadsheet being updated. The third type is rarer, and honestly a little more calculated, but it explains a lot of the wealthy old car crowd you see at auctions.
This is the status inverter. For decades, buying the newest, most expensive car was the fastest way to signal that you'd made it. But something has flipped in the last several years, especially among people who already have money. When literally anyone with decent credit can lease a new luxury SUV for $600 a month, the new luxury car stops being a status symbol and starts being a subscription plan that anyone can access. So the genuinely wealthy started doing something clever. They moved backward instead of forward. Owning something rare and difficult to maintain, a car that requires specialists flown in, parts sourced from overseas, patience most people don't have, became the new marker of real money. It's not about horsepower anymore. It's about scarcity. A brand new Bentley says you can afford the payment. A perfectly restored 1961 Bentley says you can afford to wait, to search, to hunt down the one mechanic in the country who understands its electrical system. Waiting and hunting have become the new flex, because in a world of same-day delivery, patience is the actual luxury. There's a psychological term for what's happening here, though nobody at these car shows says it out loud. It's called positional scarcity. When everyone can access something, its value as a status symbol collapses, no matter how much it costs. So status seekers instinctively move toward whatever the crowd can't easily copy. Right now, that's old iron with a story attached to it, not new metal with a warranty attached to it. Then there's a fourth kind of person, and this one is emotional rather than intellectual, and honestly, the most human of all the types. This is the time traveler, the person for whom a specific car is a direct wire back to a specific memory. Maybe their father drove a Lincoln Continental, and that smell of old leather and hot vinyl on a summer dashboard is tangled up with feeling safe as a kid in the back seat. Maybe a grandmother had a Cadillac, and riding in it meant getting ice cream and staying up too late. Nobody chooses these associations. They get built before a person is old enough to have any say in it, and they get locked in place because smell is the sense most directly wired to memory. That's not opinion, that's basic brain wiring. The olfactory system runs straight into the hippocampus with almost no filter. So when a 45-year-old climbs into a 30-year-old Mercedes and that specific mix of old leather, engine oil, and warm plastic hits them, they're not smelling a car. They're smelling being 9 years old again for about 4 seconds, completely involuntarily. New cars can't do this. They're built with synthetic materials specifically designed to smell like nothing, because manufacturers learned that strong smells trigger complaints and allergy concerns. In trying to remove anything offensive, they accidentally removed anything memorable. A brand new luxury car in 20 years won't trigger anyone's nostalgia because it never had a distinct enough signature to imprint on anyone in the first place. That's a strange kind of tragedy hiding inside good design. What ties every one of these people together, the control seeker, the authenticity chaser, the status inverter, the time traveler, is that they're all reacting to the same underlying shift, whether they put it this way or not. Modern luxury optimized itself so aggressively toward comfort, safety, and convenience that it accidentally optimized away friction. And it turns out friction was doing more emotional work than anyone realized. Friction is what makes you remember something. Friction is what makes you feel ownership instead of access. A car that never asks anything of you eventually starts to feel like it was never really yours to begin with. Just something you are allowed to borrow at a very high monthly rate. Old luxury cars are inefficient, unreliable, thirsty, occasionally dangerous, and completely irrational as a purchase in almost every measurable way. And that's exactly the point nobody selling you a car will ever say directly. The people choosing them aren't being irrational at all. They're just refusing to let something built to feel like nothing take the place of something built to be remembered. If this kind of deep dive into car culture and psychology is something you enjoy, consider buying me a coffee through the link in the description. It genuinely helps keep these videos coming.